Hello, everyone. I am going to try to say something I forgot in my Christian background. I'm going to start with a very sad story of my sister, who's 4 years older than I am, who, just so that you get a little background of me counting the cost in high school, what if I even get to that part. Maybe I'll make a second video because I don't know how to edit these and put them together. Otherwise, I could be making videos all day long, little ones, and piece them all together. But anyway, they divorced when I was a year and a half. And so that means my three older siblings were older. The youngest of those three was 5 years old. My brother then was 6, and my eldest sister must have been 7. So my older sister, her name is Dee Dee. And no, we don't have a brother named BB. Her name's Dee Dee, and I'm Cece. Okay, so Dee Dee is the third youngest of the eldest. So she was 5, the 3 older ones. And let me tell you, we weren't raised together. I was a year and a half. We weren't raised together, but we act almost identical, except she screwed up in a different way. She is a little more different. She's just as whatever I am, but she's probably has some bitterness and anger because of my stepmother, and I'll tell you why. Is because she was 5 years old, and she was obviously a mama's girl because it didn't affect my oldest one, Vicky, and my brother, Bill, named after my dad, Bill Wayne. So it obviously affected her more. And I was told by my mother that they were thinking of trading me with her because I was so young, I didn't know. And Dee Dee, when obviously after the divorce, when they would come to visit my mother, wherever she was, I was young, so I don't know. Well, whenever they would bring Dee Dee and the kids to visit mommy, when it came time to go back to daddy's, Dee Dee, they couldn't get her out of the floorboard of the car, back seat. It makes me want to scream just remembering my mother telling me that. So because Dee Dee had such a horrible time, she didn't want to go back to daddy's house. She wanted to stay with mommy. And so and my stepmother hated that. And so she got it even worse from my stepmother. So then she learned she needs to suck up to my stepmother. So anyway, plus my stepmother had a daughter living at home there with them, same age as Dee Dee. Her name's, Barbie. So anyway, they were the same age. They were in cheerleading together. Now Barbie didn't enter in any of those beauty pageants, but Shirley, I guess her name is Shirley, the stepmother. I guess Shirley, because Dee Dee got older and decided even children know when to suck up to prevent danger. So she obviously was learning at an early age, she better suck up, because when she gets home all puffy face, crying still probably, they had to rip her out of the back seat to get her in the house, and then she gets in trouble for it. So oh God, help me. So then I guess they did cheerleading together and stuff, and she got into these beauty pageants. So she would win first place with all the beauty pageants. And we look a lot alike, but we're not. She's got bigger eyes, she's got a smaller nose, and big lips. Bigger. And she's 5'8". Not that I ever got offered to model, or I never entered in those because we were poor. And then I'll let the machine get that, and I'll get screamed at maybe, but I'll say I was in the bathroom, which I'm supposed to take the phone in there. So anyway, I may cut this video off after this story. And then, so I was telling you, so that's that part of the history. Why my older sister, Dee Dee, was in modeling for a while, but she got out. Let me hear if it's a person. It was probably Robo, but we're getting some calls here. So anyway, I'm a little shaky from talking about that. But so I don't know why they didn't trade us. the youngest one who didn't know anything at a year and a half. I go live with my dad, raised by my stepmother. I'll never know, right? But, my mother didn't plan that to happen. She didn't plan that we wouldn't really not see each other much, the whole of us. It was that stepmother that made it so miserable for my dad. And then when I was 18, I finally asked him, I'm like, because he said something about her, and he never talked bad about her, but something he said, I don't know what it was. And I said, well, Daddy, why did you stay with her? Why didn't you go back to Mommy? Because I remember being 5 years old in the back seat, and granted, they've been divorced a while now, when I'm 5, and I saw my mother folding my dad's jacket when he picked us up, because we didn't have a car ever in my life until we walked everywhere. And I was older and like 10 or 11. And then even when I would get in a car, I'd get car sick because I wasn't used to being in a car. But anyway, my dad had picked us up, my mother and me, and we were going out for pizza, I guess. And I remember my mother saying in the front seat there to him, she said, I still love you and I will take you back. And she did. She loved him all those years, even though she cussed him out and everything. But anyway, I'm just saying, so my sister Dee Dee became, modeling, and she was popular, and we act a lot of, like, when I've watched my videos here, even Marco's, when I would Marco all my sisters, I act just like her. And, she acts like a lot like Mommy. She wasn't raised with Mommy, so that's a lesson right there. You can be separated and never really know each other or learn anything from any of us. But because you're related, you will inherit some personalities. So, okay. So then I was saying how at 15, I went to New Mexico to see my eldest sister, Vicky. She was already married. She did find Jesus in college, but only because of a boy that she married. She's still married to him. Okay. That's how she found Jesus, not because of college, because remember, they were raised Catholic-ish. Well, then I was there at 15. Well, at 16, I did go visit my dad in Virginia. And then while I was there, Dee Dee had me enter in a contest in the mall. It's a brand called Esprit. And if you won, you can get a contract for Esprit, and you get like hundreds of dollars worth of their clothes. So she and I went, and she entered me, helped me, and then they put you, like, they timed it. They go, okay, you have 1 hour to put all these outfits together, and then we'll take Polaroids of you, and then we'll enter you into the contest. So she and I did that. She helped me. And we put all these Esprit clothes together in the mall, in that store, whatever store it was. And then, entered the contest. Well, the summer ended and I left. I went back home. But later I found out that I won to enter into the next stage of, who knows what that, I was also on the Dillard Teen Board modeling. I think that was Virginia, or that was maybe in Oklahoma. I don't remember, but I couldn't do either one. So, yeah, what happened was in Oklahoma, before I went to Virginia, I might have applied, or maybe after, and then I had to leave to go to Virginia, and I said no, and then they wouldn't, they won't take you back, because you got to do some things, right? Once they say you're accepted. Well, so I got on that. Okay, but that's not the point here. The point is that before I left that summer to go to Virginia, this is about counting the costs. I was in high school. Now, you can be in the world, but not of the world. So yeah, I was gonna, if I did the modeling thing, if it amounted to anything, but I kept missing it. So see, that's God. He didn't want me in that type of thing. It might have escalated into something, but he didn't want me in that. But the story that I had to kind of give you that backstory to, and maybe I'll just make a part 2, because before that summer began, before I went to Virginia at 16, and I was spending time with my older siblings, which Vicky was already married off and living in New Mexico. But I was, Dee Dee lived in town, and Bill lived in town, my brother. And then me and Jamie, my younger brother, and it was just Jamie and me. And then there's an interesting story about my stepsister, even though she isn't she's not a professing Christian. I've never asked her. And like, see, Vicky, Bill, and Dee Dee became Christians against all odds, right? And I'm not saying Catholics. Some people call Catholics Christians. And, maybe if they're ignorantly being in that, and they're not following the Pope, and they're just following their whatever, but still, I feel like the Holy Spirit would tell them in that seat, this is wrong, get out. But because the Catholics kind of brainwash them into a lot of garbage, and then my little sister, the Filipino, she was in that, kind of cultish, turned out to be cultish. They called it Southern Baptist, but it was, what did they call it? Whatever. Anyway, it was independent. That now for 15 years she went. So now that, one thing about that church, they did learn about the rapture, but they learned about being left behind, that if they don't do it exactly right, whatever, like if they cause their brother to stumble by wearing a skirt that, and I'm sorry, but you can dress like a frumpy tent and a guy will still lust after you. I kid you not. So I know I'm not dissing the Bible and saying it's not true, because the Bible does tell you to dress modestly. I'm just saying, when you do it as a rule, it actually kind of causes men to look even harder, because they're like, wow, I wonder what that frumpy thing is with her husband. Who knows? I'm just being real. Okay. Now, I was, and I'm a girl. I'm not gay, but I'm thinking to myself, she's awful frumpy and blah, blah, and I wonder what they're like. You girls think about that stuff too, don't you? So anyway, when I was going, every now and then I visited. But where am I going with this? What I'm saying is, that church talked about being left behind, and you could be left behind. So those women knew how to make soap. They knew how to make candles. They knew how to make houses. The men and the women, because they were the Proverb 31, which is also talking about the bride sometimes, I think. But yes, because where else in the Bible? Peter, it says women should be keepers at home. But the Proverb 31 woman, she sells things and stuff. So it might be also the bride. But thank you, Daryl, if you were directing that at me. I was taught too that it's the Proverb 31 woman, but recently, like a few years back, I think they were saying it could also mean the bride. So these women at that church, they could fix an appliance. My little sister is smart anyway, the Filipino, and she has remodeled so many of her homes she's lived in. Remodeled, like, with her bare hands, put the floor in, put the toilet in, put the oven and sink and the walls and the drywall. And then my sister-in-law that left my brother, she was the same way. All those women. So that's what that church kind of taught them. So then let me just maybe cut this off, and because I don't want to get into it and then I have to stop. But that's the background of this sister. And while I was being out there visiting, I guess they knew I was a Christian. I don't know. I didn't flamboyantly talk about it. I think they knew it, and they just didn't try to get on that subject. And I wasn't taught how to witness, and that's why it's good to teach them early. They taught us stuff in church, but they didn't really teach us how to witness. So maybe that's an old bad habit I don't have, a good habit that I never learned. And then, but anyway, they all knew I was a Christian and everything, and they didn't act crazy around me. There's a funny story what I did to my sister Dee Dee, and I didn't know it would freak her out the way it did. Maybe I'll remind Maybe I'll remember it, but it was hilarious. And I didn't realize she would. But anyway, I gave you that backstory part so when I come back and start telling you about what happened to me in high school because of my Christianity, meaning my beliefs, being saved, and what you should and shouldn't do, like drinking and listening to rock music or any kind of secular music and watching any kind of secular shows. And then and I went to 2 high schools. So not at the same time, 2 years in one and 2 years in another. And I was in track, I was in soccer, I lifted weights, I was a very hyper child. I did aerobics since I had been 14, Joni Greggins. I couldn't wait till school ended so I can go home and do my aerobics and go run around the block, and would wear these 3-pound ankles on each weight, and I would power walk for a long time and do aerobics. And then I would get into soccer and track. And I was never a marathon runner. That's too hard for me. I was a sprinter. But anyway, it's not like I was lettered or anything. I was just doing it. Okay. So this happened in this first high school. And it was before, and then I was going to the Emmanuel Baptist Church in this high school. And it was a high school in an oil town in Oklahoma where everybody was rich. And back then, when you're rich, you wear your Sunday clothes every day to school. I mean, I call them that because they just dressed to the hilt. They were all rich. There weren't many poor people like my sister and me, my other sister that was raised with me. And so college usually has sororities and fraternities, right? Nope, not this school. This high school, not college, had sororities. They didn't have fraternities, but they had sororities, and there was 3 of them. And the first one was Jolly Jill's. That was the best one. That had all the rich, pretty girls in it. And they rushed me. Okay? And this was when I was 16 and 17. Because they won't rush, even though my sister and I came in there late. She was a junior, I was a freshman. They only rush freshmen and sophomores. So my sister came in as a junior, and they wouldn't rush her because she was too old, right? She was a junior when we came to town. And then we had come from the military town next door. And then so I got rushed for that, and I went through all that BS, the rush. You got to wear the 6 ponytails. You better not forget any of the rules. You got to wear green nail polish. You better not, if they catch you on the street not wearing your weird crap that they make you do every day, and recite something out of their little folder booklet they have you memorize, then you'll get some points taken away or something, right? So, and then at the very end, at the crescendo, when they're going to find out if you're really going to come in, they make you parade up and down the highway there, all the group of us, in mini skirts or mini dresses with tights and high heels of whatever we could find, right? Not like spikes or anything. Just looking really ridiculous with weird, maybe we had to do our hair green because that was their colors. And then they make you kneel down, and then they pour oil on you, cooking oil, and crack eggs on your head. And now you're slimed, and you're going to walk up and down the highway. This is, what do you call that? When you're rushed, when you are going through, the word escapes me, but you're going through the thing to, be rushed. So anyway, I did go through all that. Then at the end, I find out this. So this must have been before school was out, because we don't get together in the summertime, right? We don't get together. We got to do all this before school is out for the summer. So they're doing all this all year long in school with us. Whatever other crappy, stupid things we had to do. And you have a big sister. So I had a big sister. Her name's Valerie Perkins. Her dad owned the insurance company over there. Car insurance, something, whatever. Then So I had gone through all that. And before I left for Virginia in the summer, I didn't know if I was going to be accepted because I had a big sister, and so did all the other girls that were freshmen and sophomores. If there was any sophomores, it was usually just freshmen because they already got them. The other, whatever. So I had gone and I didn't know and I didn't care really. I wasn't really all, I didn't want to be with the in crowd. And not only that, I already was going to church and I already kind of knew that they probably drank, but they didn't drink around me probably because they probably knew I went to church. And but then at the very end, okay, and then there was a Catholic church in town. Catholic church in town, guess what they did? Every Saturday night, they held dances. So all the Catholic kids and kids who weren't Catholic went because they played all the popular music. They got to dance. I never went. They let them bootleg liquor in there. So they were getting drunk and they knew it. So I never went to those, but I heard about them. And those girls probably went to them because I think we went. They took all of us because there would be nights where all the big sisters would take the little sisters out. And I think they took us there one night. And I already knew about that place, that Catholic church doing that. And I was in there and I was just looking around. One guy was crying his eyes out because his girlfriend broke up with him. And I knew the guy. I knew the couple. I mean, I knew those kids. I knew all those kids. I went to school with them. So then, not that I was popular, not that I knew everybody personally, I just knew of them. Then, so they're doing that. And then they offered me a drink in the car. I think after we left, because I don't think we stayed long. We didn't stay long. Then I took a few sips and I'm thinking, I ain't doing this. These girls are going to be drinking. They're going to be drinking. And they didn't tell me they'd be drinking. They didn't tell me this. I'm not going to do this. And not that the little sisters were getting wild and crazy. I think the other girl I was with, I think we were in the back seat of a car. She wasn't drinking much either. And she was kind of a quiet girl and probably rich. And she was cute, and we weren't like nobody was really talking to us and partying and being loud. And it was very quiet. And I'm just like sitting there sipping on this cup and I'm like, I didn't even drink on my 21st birthday. I'm like, I don't really care to be doing this kind of thing. And then I was about to leave. This was about the end of it all. Okay. After we'd gone through all that crap. And then, so, I left for Virginia. And then I left for Virginia, and while I was in Virginia, Mommy sent me pictures. Either she had them developed or they were Polaroid, I don't remember, but it was of my little sister, Susie, sitting on my bed, Indian style, cute little, thing, and in my bedroom, because this is how it happens when you are accepted after, I didn't know I was accepted before I left. And so when you find out you're accepted, they think they're going to keep you in suspense. Like, I hope I'm accepted. So anyway, but those girls didn't go out of town. I'm just saying I went out of town. I went to Virginia to see with my dad. And then my mom sent me pictures and probably told me about it over the phone. And she said, look at your room. She took pictures of my room. So what they do is when you're accepted, they go and they decorate your room. So they had my room all decorated. Green and white streamers and balloons and a big poster where Valerie wrote on that, Cece. They did call me Cece because they found out that was my nickname. And she goes, Cece, we want you so bad. And they'll suck up all these, suck up words. Like, we love you so much. I want you to be my little sister, and blah blah, and maybe they leave some gifts. I mean, I don't, and it was, I guess, kind of a Christian town, that's the Bible Belt, right? So I am like, oh, that's sweet. And then my little sister thought it was cute or fun. I guess she met Valerie and I wasn't there, and my mother and my little sister were there while Valerie was decorating my room. And who knows, maybe some of her friends too. And Valerie was cool. We had drama class together. She was a junior and I was a freshman. She's very nice. In fact, some shows I see, I think that's Valerie Perkins. I'm like, she plays a lot of little roles in these like detective type shows, and you know how they can change these people up. Well, anyway, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I think that's Valerie. And I've tried to look her up before. I don't remember if I've, anyway. So, you know, then to apologize because she was crushed. I came back into town and she wanted my answer because I wasn't going to give an answer when I was in Virginia, because back then long distance phone calls are expensive. And so when I got back, she came to my house. She knocked on the door, and I already knew I wasn't going to be a part of it. And I had already come back from Virginia, done in that modeling thing, the Esprit, but I didn't know that I was, you know, chosen for a finalist, blah, blah. So I told her, and I didn't know modeling was bad, you know, back then, where they can rape you and do weird garbage. Anyway, you know, just suck you in. So anyway, I answered the door, and she's like, Cece, you know, and she was missing a tooth, but she had a retainer that held her front tooth in, because when she was young, and she had a younger sister, when she was young, and her dad walked with a cane and a limp, and they had solid brass, the real heavy solid brass beds in their room, okay? I'd spent the night with her once, and I went over to her house a couple times. Anyway, they got in a car accident, and her mother died, and she got a tooth knocked out. Her dad is limping for life, and her little sister, I don't even think was in the car, but Valerie was. And Valerie got her tooth knocked out, and I think she was maybe 7. It was after her little sister was born sometime. But anyway, so Valerie was being raised by her dad in a big house there in town, right? And all these girls. I literally lived on the other side of the tracks. So then she came to the door, and she's all excited, and I don't know what I said, but I said I can't. I didn't tell her why. Maybe I said the drinking. Maybe I said, I said church. I said I go to church, and they don't want me to do this stuff. See, I knew it would be wrong, not because church told me necessarily, but church informed me of right and wrong, and unlike a lot of churches will. And I loved God as best I could, and I wanted to be on God's team, and I wanted to join a little bit. I wanted to be part of the crowd, but they did what you shouldn't do, and I told her I couldn't. She had the saddest, her face fell. Now, granted, she was a junior. How old would she have been? Not old. She's still young, too, but to me, she was older. Well, she turned and left. Never spoke to me again. The whole next year, my sophomore year, nobody spoke to me. And I was all alone in high school in my sophomore year. And I was so poor that I had to wear the same few outfits every other day and hand wash them. Sometimes we didn't have shampoo, and we'd have to wash our hair with laundry soap. But how else was I going to, because when I was 15, I started working. So I had money, but I think my mother needed it. So I was working at the pizza place there in the small town. And then maybe that was after I got back. No, because I was 15. Maybe I was 15 when I was a freshman, but I don't think so. I'm born late 69. You know, I was the older kid because I was born in the almost winter time, and school starts in the fall. So you're almost 6 when school starts, right? So anyway, I'm saying I was working, but I think my mother needed the money. And then at 16, I started working in the mall at a kid's clothing store for like 6 months. And then I moved on to another store in the mall for clothes I could buy myself. I could buy some clothes and shoes, and then, living in Virginia working, and I saved some money and I could buy some clothes, but I don't remember. But I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't my sophomore year, but I think it was my sophomore year, because certainly my freshman year, I didn't have any clothes either. And it was humiliating. You'd have to count the days. How many days can I skip without having to repeat the grade? How many days can I skip and take detention to make up for it? Even though I'm doing my makeup work and I'm keeping the grades, my older sister, her name's Libby, the one that's blonde and just 2 years older, that grew up with me, Libby, she and I, would count the days that, we could skip without getting flunked, because we didn't have enough clothes. It was embarrassing. And then we got jobs. I mean, I guess, I don't remember why. Maybe my mother was taking our money, because she couldn't keep a job, I guess. She never did drugs, never. But people did always accuse her of being on drugs. Not to me, but not to me, but she would tell me. And then just small memories in my mind as a child. I've seen her act crazy, but she did drink. She drank beer. But she did act really. One time somebody threw a birthday party for her, I think. I was like 5 or something. And they gave her a birthday cake and everything. She took a can of beer and poured it all over top of it. Was laughing. And it had the biggest cherry. I'd never seen a cherry that big on top of it. And I didn't understand what the hell. They had a swimming pool. I'm like, I'm just going to go swim. I don't know. She was very beautiful. She could have had probably any man she wanted, but she was probably a little crazy. I don't know. So anyway, that is an example of counting the cost. So I did complete the story. And when I was 16 and I went to Virginia that year, that's probably when more people were at home. And after dinner, we all went out and played baseball, because he still lived in the same house for many years. And then when I was 18, there weren't many other people left at home. So it was just Jamie and me that one night. And then even if my brother was living at home, yeah, he was, but he never wanted to play. So Jamie was always wanting to play. And so I'm like, okay, I will. But I ended up getting a boyfriend. But anyway, that is an example of sometimes it's very hard to go against the grain. Sometimes we do it later in life. Sometimes we do it sooner in life. And then later on, see, I fell away. I fell away later on. So, I like what JD's last sermon, not the prophecy update, but his last sermon after the prophecy update. Is it Thursday or Sunday? It explains about salvation, yes. And then I got a comment, sorry I don't remember your name, about how you spent 65 years of your life thinking you were saved. And I said something like, I'll agree, I'll comment later. But I agree that you can think you think you're saved or whatever, but really you are. I mean, if you believed back then, 65 years ago, and you were doing all the good fruit, and maybe you weren't, but you believed, I mean, maybe you didn't abide in the vine, maybe you did, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now, because like I said, I still pray to Jesus about that, and there's still, like, JD answered quite a few questions, and but then I got a couple more that they're not important. It's not about salvation. It's about the, I don't know. I don't care, because all I care about is people are encouraged to read the Bible and to have a relationship, but if their brain isn't yet there yet, that's okay, because the Holy Spirit is going to do stuff like that as long as you get the word out. And also I'm going to do a video on those scriptures. There's a couple of them that say, I think that's the only box left, that say something like, none of these will enter into the kingdom of God, backbiter, slanderer, gossiper, stuff like that. Okay, I thought about doing a video and saying, if you've accepted Jesus, yet you read the Bible and you read this long list and you're afraid you're still going to go to hell, so you say, what the heck? I might as well live in the world. I don't really want that happening, because it kind of happened to me with the book of Revelation. And then when I came back in 2003, there were some scriptures that I wasn't taught from 10 to 18 that scared me when I started reading the Bible at 33, after being away for that long. Like, they call me Lord, Lord, and I say, I know you're not. So I want to be a disciple. I want to be a disciple and help the ones who have been encouraged to read the Bible and talk to Jesus after they've accepted him, that when they start reading, they might come across some verses and that might scare them and say, well, I can't do that, or I am doing this and I can't stop. And I want to encourage them somehow, if Jesus leads me to do that. But that's just some idea I have popped into my head. Okay, love you guys. God bless you. Thank you. Bye.